Okay, previously we launched a new AWS instance and we installed Docker on that instance. We're going to use Docker to manage our Jupyter Notebook server. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually launch that Jupyter Notebook server. So let's go ahead and SSH into that server. We're going to do SSH Ubuntu at, and then the IP address, the public IP address of our server. And here we've connected to the server. We can verify that Docker is in fact installed by typing docker-v. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually pull the Jupyter image that we want to use to run our Jupyter Notebook server. So we're going to use that. We're going to do that by the command docker pull Jupyter/datascience-notebook. And that is going to start this process. It's actually pretty quick because we are working on an AWS instance. We're in the cloud. We don't have to connect to the internet over our local internet connection. This is a machine that's in an Amazon server farm somewhere, and it's connected to the internet there, and it's got a much better internet connection than I do. So it's actually going very quickly. It's pulling, this is a 5 gigabyte image that it's pulling here, and it's just about done just while I'm talking through this. Each one of these layers here that are being pulled define a different aspect of the image that we're going to be using. From the base image that's used to build the system, which is the Ubuntu operating system, all the way up to the last install that was done on the image, which was probably some aspect of the R library to install some, maybe it installed ggplot2 or some R library that we're going to need to do data science. So looks like this last little step is taking a little bit of time, so I am going to pause the video here. Okay, welcome back. It looks like it has finished doing the pull, and I can actually verify that by typing docker images, and you can see here it is. We've got Jupyter/datascience-notebook with this image ID. Here's the size of the image. You can see it's quite large, 6.13 gigabytes. This is a lot to type, this Jupyter/datascience-notebook. That's a lot to type every time, so I'm actually going to give it a tag, something shorter to type with the tag command. So I'm going to say docker tag this image ID and DSNB for data science notebook. So here we go. And now if I type docker images, you can see now I have two images here. I've got the Jupyter Data Science Notebook and DSNB. But notice that they have the same image ID, same size, same everything else. They're actually the exact same image. They just have two different names. Now the way Docker thinks about it actually thinks of them as two different images. But because there's no difference between the two, it doesn't need to store the image twice. So that's pretty cool. We can actually talk more about the way that Docker stores things in later videos. For now, let's just marvel at the fact that we're going to be able to run this image with this shorter command. So let's go ahead and do this run. And we're going to type docker run. We're going to use 3 flags here to do this run. We're going to use -v/home/Ubuntu, which is actually where we are right now on our Ubuntu server on AWS. And we're going to link that to /home/Jovian, which is the user directory on the Jupyter container that we're going to be running. I think for now, suffice it to say that we're going to need this command in order to write files from our Jupyter Notebook to our Amazon web server instance. We can go into what the meaning of this this volume command is in a subsequent video, but for now we are going to need this in order to have files persist on our system. We're going to link ports. So we opened port 80 on our Amazon system, and Jupyter is going to default to being on port 8888 on the Docker container. So we actually need to link those up using the port flag. -P 80 on the host system, our AWS instance, is going to be linked to 8888 on the container. The last flag we're going to use is -D, which signifies that we're going to be running in detached mode. And then we give it the name of the image we want to run, which is DSNB. And here we go. We get this, this long string returned, which is actually the container ID of the container that's now running. We can see that container by typing docker ps. And there it is. And you see, we don't get the whole string here for the container ID, but we do get the first, dozen or so characters in that container ID. And then we've got the image name and all this other important information, especially the fact that port 80 is linked to port 88, which is going to be very important to us. So, how are we going to access this server? We're going to do that in the browser. So let's flip back to our browser. We're going to get a new browser here. And let me pull this down so you can see the address bar. And we are going to put in the IP address of our AWS instance. Let's go ahead and put that in. And because we're running on port 80, our Jupyter Notebook server should pop up right here. Here it is, we can see it. Now, by default, token authentication is going to be enabled. In order to work with this, we're going to need a token. How can we get that? Well, we're going to flip back to our bash terminal that's connected to our AWS instance here, and we're going to run one final Docker command here. We're going to run docker exec, and then we're going to pass this container ID right here, and we're going to run bash Jupyter. You know what? We don't need bash. We're just going to run Jupyter Notebook list. And what this is going to do is it's going to have the effect of listing all the Jupyter Notebook servers that are running on our Docker container. We will talk about what the docker exec means in a subsequent video. For now, we got the token that we need. Here it is. Here's this token that we need. Let's copy that, flip back to the browser, paste this into the password spot right here, click login. I am not going to save that password. And here we are. And I don't want to save it on LastPass either. Here we are. We've got our Jupyter Notebook server running, and we are able to launch a new Julia, Python, or R file here if we want to. We can create a new text file. Maybe we call that, we'll call it foo.txt, and we'll say hello world right here. We'll save it, and then we will close it. And then we can flip back to our bash terminal right here, and we can ls the files that are on our system, and there, sure enough, is foo.txt. We can less that file, and we can see that indeed it says hello world right there. So our Jupyter server is fully functional. Thank you for watching these videos.